Greetings, mutual mortals, and it's finally time to start that special video I promised. Sorry that this one took a while to come out. It turned out to be a bit of an undertaking to put together, plus personal life got in the way, and to be honest, I've been feeling kinda burnt out. Also, wow! I made this video to be a 50 subscriber special, but the channel sub count has almost doubled since I announced this thing. I'm repeating myself a bit here, but I'm kinda surprised that you guys actually like this stuff. So once again, I'm truly thankful. Same here. So, what are we doing for this again? I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite games of all time, Gunstar Heroes. Oh, I've heard great things about that one. And you're going to help me review it, Derios. Wait, what? This game is 2-player after all. First that Untold board game, and now this. Look, I know I agreed to live and help ya, but this forcing me to play with your crap has got to end. I'm sorry. It's just that I wanted to make this video different by having the both of us look at it. Plus, to be honest, I've never actually played this game with someone else before. I've always wanted to try it out. Well, if that's the case, I'll do it. Really? You can sit this one out if you want. It's fine. Plus, I feel like I owe you for giving me this opportunity in the first place. So let's do this like Brutus. Oh, and sorry for lashing out on you. It's alright. Oh, and here's some notes I made for you. Gunstar Heroes. Even though I wasn't born yet at the time this game was originally released, I freaking love this title, which was developed by a new face at the time, Treasure, which from what I've heard were actually former employees of Konami that left to form their own company. Don't worry, it wasn't for the bad practices you hear about nowadays. Konami was pretty cool back in the day, at least I think they were. They left because the team wanted more creative freedom or something like that. And good for them, because they went on to make some really interesting titles, such as Dynamite Headdy, Ikaruga, a McDonald's game that's surprisingly really good, a 3D Wario platformer of all things that I've still yet to play, and a title that's very similar to this one, Alien Soldier, despite how much it makes me want to snap my controller in two. Back to the topic at hand. Gunstar Heroes was released for the Sega Mega Drive/Genesis in 1993, and believe it or not, this was the first game the company released, definitely leaving a great first impression for them, as gamers and critics fell in love with Treasure's run and gun game. It also got a sequel for the Game Boy Advance in 2005, but apparently Angelos has never played that one, despite having a GBA back in the day. Though, if I did have that game as a kid, I probably would have loved it. Anyway, despite the game being almost 3 decades old, you can still see some heavy inspiration from Gunstar Heroes in some modern games, such as Cuphead and Freedom Planet. So it's quite clear that GSH is quite well known and beloved by many. Why is that? Well, we're going to show you. How about we start with the story? The story? Really? I've heard this game is great, but I wouldn't say its plot is one of its defining traits. I know. I just wanted to get out of the way so we can get to the really good stuff. Oh, I see. But, according to the notes you gave me, apparently the story is different between the Japanese and international versions. Which one will we be referring to? Let's try to abridge both, because again, it ain't no Oscar-worthy narrative, so there's no need to go deep into it. Well, okay then. Again, the plot is slightly different between the Japanese and international manuals, but this is all you need to know. Many years ago, an evil organization created a destructive robot, or God of Oblivion, known as Gold and Silver. It was created to harvest natural resources from the planet and cause some massive wreckage while doing so. Until somebody finally stopped them, had their power removed into 4 crystals, and was banished to the moon. I think it's implied that these gems are also the source of the world's weapons. The world was then at peace, until years later this dickhead known as the Empire shows up, along with a group of commanders under his wing, found the location of the gems. I think he wanted to use their power for himself, but spoiler alert, that doesn't work out, and they end up unintentionally awakening Gold and Silver again. Never get to fight the Empire either, strangely enough. With the world at stake, it's up to the Gunstar Heroes to save the day! Mainly red and blue, since that's who you play as. Yellow and brown only act as mission support. Someone named Green came along too, but then he got brainwashed. So much for that. There are some other things that happen throughout the game, such as Yellow being kidnapped at some point, but honestly, I don't want to go through any of that. The plot is nothing special anyway, so let's just get to the gameplay. Finally! Gunstar Heroes is a platform with a heavy use of projectile-based combat, a run and gun in other words. When you start, you have the option to pick between two firing styles, free shot and fixed shot. Free shot allows you to move while shooting, but you can only fire in so many directions. Fixed shot allows you to shoot in all directions, but you have to stay still while firing. Some weapons may work better for one style than the other, so it's sort of to personal preference. It's also interesting that your sprite, melee attacks, and certain voice clips are also different depending on what style you choose. Although that might be because Gunstar Red is meant to be free shot and Gunstar Blue is meant to be fixed shot, canonically anyway. The basic controls are quite simple to grasp. Running, gunning, and jumping is pretty standard stuff, but there are a number of other techniques you can perform too. Sometimes these bird guys or certain enemies can drop a weapon type or some health. In order to collect them, you have to press down and the fire button at the same time. By jumping and holding up while you hit a ceiling or a platform, you can grab it and move across. You can also do this kickflip to attack while getting on top of the platform. If you get close enough to certain enemies or projectiles, you can press the fire buttons to throw them in any direction. By pressing the jump button and getting in midair, you can perform an aerial attack. And you can perform a downward version of it if you're holding down while doing it, but only while using fixed shot. You can also wall jump, but it isn't required for progression, except for one section in Black's Dice Palace. There's a slide kick you can perform by holding down and pressing the jump button, and a power slide by doing a half circle input from left down to right or vice versa, then pressing fire. It's stronger than the slide kick, but it leaves you more open to attacks. I don't really use it often though, the only times I do are by accident. And finally, you can guard by holding jump and pressing the fire button. But I'll be honest, I never use this technique. It's just so cumbersome to execute, and when I do happen to pull it off, it's not that useful. Plus, you're better off just dodging enemy attacks anyway. Strangely enough, there's also two segments in Black's Dice Palace that prevent the use of your gun, and instead you have this short range punch, which is absolutely terrible, but I thought I'd bring it up. Let's talk about firing. There are 4 different weapon types. Force, the most basic and all-round of the 4, Lightning, which is somewhat weak but fast, Chaser, the weakest of the 4 but homes in on enemies, and Fire, which has the shortest range but the highest damage output. But here comes the cool part. You can carry 2 weapon types at once, and you combine them to make an even stronger weapon. There are 10 possible combinations you can make, and each squad can cater to different playstyles and strategies. Need something up close and personal? Double up on Fire! Want something strong but also defensive? Lightning and Fire is a great choice for that. You require something that's fast that does most of the work for you. Lightning and Chase can get that job done. My personal favorite is the Fire and Chaser combo. It's a weapon that can negate certain projectiles, but you can influence the direction it's moving in while firing it. Sure, it can be a little hard to control since it never stops moving, but with some mastery, it could be one of the best combos in the game. Here's how stage progression works. The first 4 stages you can pick in any order, but the stages after that have a fixed path. You should consider what stages you tackle first carefully, because every time you finish one, your max health increases, so it may be best to tackle an annoying stage, like Black's Dice Palace, last. Speaking of which, why does everyone complain about this level like it's the worst thing ever? Sure, it can be a little slow, but all the bosses and challenges can be cleared quite quickly and aren't too annoying, except curry and rice maybe. Or maybe I'm just used to it since I've played through this thing so many times now. As I was saying, there are 2 stages that have somewhat of a gameplay shift, those being the minecart stage and the spaceship stage. In the minecart stage, you can't do your mid-air melee attack since that button input is now being used to switch the minecart's gravity, and the spaceship stage pretty much turned the game into a shmup. Even with these differences in playstyle, they're mostly harmless and an interesting change of pace. While we're on that, let's get into the difficulty, because this is a pretty challenging game. You probably won't have the best impressions on your first go, getting accustomed to everything, learning the enemy and boss patterns, and figuring out which weapon combos suits your playstyle best. But this game has what Exo Paradigm Gamer calls the Sega Learning Curve. Great channel by the by. Go check him out if you don't already. Sega Learning Curve? The hell is this? Well, the term is used to describe games that require mastery of their mechanics in order to get the most enjoyment out of them. So, games that follow Bushnell's law, being easy to learn and tough to master? Something like that. In fact, I can think of another game that has this learning curve. Anton Board Deluxe, the game I previously looked at. Ugh, this again? During my first playthroughs, I sucked at it. I lost a lot of lives, got game overs, and was relying on the world select just to keep my progress. But as I played it more and more, I got a better understanding of the mechanics and some strategies. And now, I've even finished the game a few times without using any continues. That's probably also the reason why we didn't get too far during those co-op playthroughs. Well, that's what happens when you force me to play a game I've never played before. But that will they welcome me twice. Wait a minute. Back to Gunstar Heroes. It follows the Sega learning curve to a T. You may find yourself dying a lot in your first playthrough, but thankfully this game has unlimited continues, and is mostly generous with its checkpoint placement. So even though the game is tough, it encourages you to keep trying. Speaking of co-op, Gunstar Heroes can also be played with a second player, me in this case. I think your damage output is lowered to not make the game easier like this, but sharing the high energy experience with another player is always a fun time. Not so much if the other player is inexperienced and finds themselves constantly needing to be revived by cutting the other player's HP, or if they keep throwing ya, then they're more of a hindrance. You can't bring up Gunstar Heroes without talking about the boss fights. Why? Because there's a ton of them, and they're all challenging and awesome, with some exceptions, like melon bread, they're a complete joke, and the less said about curry and rice the better. This was the game that started Treasure's obsession with putting a ton of boss encounters in their games. Some say it's overdone, but I don't mind it at all. If anything, it only gives the game more standout moments. It also has one of the best boss rush stages in any game I've played. Instead of fighting the same bosses you faced before, you fight similar ones to the previous fight and a few completely new ones to keep you on your toes. The boss everyone probably remembers the most is Seven Force, because of its many forms, how tough the fight could be, and also because how stunning its visuals and movement is. I mean, look at it! Is this the fabled blast processing? Actually, the game as a whole looks amazing for the hardware it's on. There are a lot of cool pseudo 3D effects, as well as sprite scaling and rotation. Even today, the game is quite the visual treat. It's also chock full of visual humor and funny moments, like when you're about to fight Smash Dice Cycle for the second time. The game tries to freak you out with this final great soldier that loves to dance. Moments like this were certainly a highlight. Why does everyone keep saying this guy looks like M. Bison? Gunstar Heroes soundtrack, composed by Nyoru Hanzawa, is also amazing. All the tracks are upbeat and fill you with energy. The sound effects and voice clips are also great and add to the high energy. In closing, Gunstar Heroes is a fantastic run and gun, and is one of my favorite games of all time for a reason. It has a variety of weapon combinations that can cater to different playstyles, a ton of unique boss encounters, visuals that still look great today, a high energy soundtrack, and as a whole, pardon my French, it's just a kick-ass game to play. I don't have many complaints with it. The only one I can think of is that sometimes the random nature of the weapon drops can screw you over if you want to use a specific weapon combination, which has messed me up on a few playthroughs. But I guess that isn't exactly the game's fault, it's just me getting unlucky in some runs. There are many ways to get your hands on Gunstar Heroes nowadays, and it's featured on many different Sega Genesis compilations and re-releases. For example, there's actually two different ways to play on the Nintendo Switch, through the Sega Mega Drive Classics compilation, or through the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. If you're okay with giving Nintendo more yearly dosh, that is. I'm not. My personal favorite version to play is the 3D enhanced version made by M2. This port was part of a lineup that gave some Sega Mega Drive and arcade games stereoscopic 3D, kinda like Nintendo's 3D Classics series. And despite not being able to see the 3D properly, I have astigmatism and all. It does look great. It also has a few extras like this gunslinger mode, which allows you to switch between weapons on the fly, and a unique staff roll which is pretty funny to watch. I would tell you to get that version, but by the time you're watching this, the 3DS eShop is probably already closed. which also dates several reviews I made on this channel. Ugh. Such is the curse of digital storefronts. Though, I think it was on a physical compilation, so you could try hunting that down instead. Angelos? According to the notes he gave me, M2 also made a Game Gear version? Huh? Oh, that's right! I kinda forgot about that port! Yes, M2, years prior, also made a version of Gunstar Heroes for the Sega Game Gear. Man, this company can port anything, can't they? It was only released in Japan and plays about as well as it sounds. It also has some notable differences from the original, such as the minecart stage being a flying stage here, and some stages are cut completely. I've never played it, nor do I have the interest to, but it's certainly a thing that exists. What the hell is that? Oh, that's my telephone. Huh, I really ever give out my number. Who's calling? Hello? Yup, this is Angelos the Angel Gamer. Yes, that's actually my full name. Stop laughing. Oh, Derios? Yeah, he's here. Ah, hold on. Derios? This woman wants to talk to you. I know exactly who this is. What do you want now, Susan? You want me to what? That many contracts? Do I have to? Alright, I'll be right there. Oh, so that's who Susan is. Uh-huh. She now knows I'm working with you. But since you're an Empyrean being, I need to sign a bunch of paperwork to show I won't go on a rampage or something like that. And I need to sign about 300 contracts to prove it. What? I knew she wouldn't let me work with it without some kind of qualification. You might be doing that for a while. Mind if I come with? You'll have to ask Susan about that. Hey, can I help Derios with this? Awesome! See you there! They said I could come and help. Why? It's not even your business. Well, if it's my pal's business, then I believe it's my business too. Plus, the fact you've been helping me out with this little project of mine has really meant a lot to me. Pals should help each other out, you know? Wow, I don't know what to say. Thank you, Angelos. No problem. Wait, I just realized, if we're both gone, who's gonna look after the house? You're right. I'm not exactly okay with leaving this place unoccupied. My sister Pinos is probably busy with all sorts of stuff. I doubt she could cover for me. Wait! I know just the person to contact. There, that'll take care of things. Who'd you message? Oh, just a friend of mine that's been helping and cheering me on behind the scenes. Now then, this contract signing starts now.